He made a fair move. Screaming about it can't help you.
Let him have it. It's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
But, sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
That's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and an old friend is back on the channel, and there's good news in the air. We've got it all scheduled out. He's going to be on the channel at least once a week moving forward before we get Geek Span and all that kind of stuff moving forward again. But obviously it is the Skip and Tosh, and the D-Man, the Skip and D connection back together again. How you doing, Skip?
Man, I'm doing real good. Always feels good to be back on the channel. Just feels good to be able to chat with my man Wes, talk about comics and all that other stuff, and but that's what this place Thinking Critical is all about. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, so obviously if people saw the thumbnail, they know we're going to be talking. Are the Avatar sequels going to be bigger business for Disney than the Star Wars movie? Something a few years ago I think would have been unfathomable. Because, Avatar hasn't exactly aged all that well. Although I personally still like it. I don't mind the Dances with Wolves, Last Fern Gully amalgamation universe that they've created. And it's kind of stole the storylines from. Certainly not as high on my list as Star Wars. But, I'll be checking out the sequels. But a lot of people like to crap on that movie. But it was huge. It was huge. It was a huge blockbuster, and it was acquired by Disney when they acquired Fox. So now that they've got the MCU, they got Star Wars. Probably the two biggest movie brands in the world, and now we're going to discuss if maybe Avatar is going to be one of the three biggest movie brands in the world. Obviously, this comes from this article from Screen Rant: Why Avatar sequels will be bigger for Disney than Star Wars movies. We're not really going to discuss the article itself. This is just the conversation starter. But this is where it came from. I think this is an article from 3 days ago. Now, let's get rid of that because we're not going to talk about that. Now, I do want to say, if you're visiting the channel for the first time, if you haven't subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this content. If you want more Skip and D on the channel together, give me a thumbs down. If you don't, let us know why. We definitely enjoy your feedback. Now, I don't know how you feel about Avatar. Like I said, I personally still enjoy the movie. Yes, I know that they ripped off Dances with Wolves and they mixed it with the last Fern Gully, the last Rainforest. But I still think it's a pretty good movie. Also, it was kind of groundbreaking with its the new use of 3D. Also, I believe it was completely filmed in 3D. That's why it looks so much more spectacular than all the movies that are post-processed for 3D. Obviously, James Cameron's tied to it. What are your thoughts on Avatar and the sequels moving forward?
We have I think the collective pop culture consciousness has kind of forgotten how important of a film and the impact of Avatar at that time. Like you pointed out, Wes, people have, made the Fern Gully comparisons and the Dances with Wolves comparisons, which, let's put some things in perspective. Dances with Wolves, if you adjust it for inflation, is still the highest grossing film of all time, technically. Over really
Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is number one, and then number two is Avatar. Titanic, I believe, is number three, and Star Wars is number four.
Thank you.
And actually, at number 10 right. is the Force Awakens. So it's not like Star Wars isn't well represented. Two of the top 10 grossing films of all time, adjusted for inflation.
And thank you for
also,
the correction.
Number 5 is Endgame. So Disney's got Star Wars, Avatar, and Endgame.
The mouse is well represented when it comes to highest grossing films of all time. And I have a terrible habit of mixing Gone with the Wind and Dances with Wolves. I mix up those titles all the time. So thank you for the correction. But when you take that into account, if you're going to rip something off, rip off the highest grossing film of all time and maybe arguably one of the most advanced, young kid animated films of all time and mash them together. But even beyond that, the whole 3D wave of movies that all of us got nauseous and sick of all came about because of the technology that literally James Cameron and his crew had to invent just to make the movie happen in the way that he wanted to, because he had came up with the idea like way back in 1994. So that film was very, very important. It was a pop culture bomb. And when I say bomb, I mean like how the rippling effect, because of its level of success, as well as
it's also
the fact that
foreshadowed the importance of the international box office, and specifically the Chinese box office. That's really what drove it up there to its overwhelming success, where it became the most not inflated. It was the highest grossing movie of all time until Avengers Endgame kind of passed it up. Obviously, Star Wars held the title for a very long time. And then Titanic, I believe, beat that one out, and then it was Avatar, and then eventually Endgame. So it has box office cachet. It's got James Cameron, one of the most prolific, best performing, big budget, like spectacular directors of all time. I don't think he's ever really had a flop, which is absolutely insane. But he doesn't direct a lot of movies. He takes a lot of time. You think about his Terminator franchise. I think he also did, was it Aliens, I believe. So
yep.
The man knows how to make money. And there are going to be four big Avatar sequels starting in 2022. Now, it does have some things going for it that Star Wars doesn't. Star Wars doesn't really have the international appeal, specifically over in Asia. That's one of the reasons that while The Force Awakens broke domestic box office records and went over $1 billion, was the first movie ever to do that, it only went barely over $2 billion worldwide because it did not get the play in Asia that other movies have, specifically like the Fast and the Furious franchise, which absolutely does gangbusters over there. Whereas Avatar is a proven winner in those markets. But, Star Wars is probably, the second highest grossing franchise of all time, probably behind the MCU now because there's been so many of those movies. So it's a pretty interesting debate. Star Wars has, the big franchise. It's got the toy sales. Avatar certainly has never had that. But it does have a few things working against it. One of it being that 3D movies, like the shine is worn off. Too many production studios, they weren't filming the movies in 3D. They are post-processing. It does not look nearly as good. The only 3D movie I can think of that even looks close to being as good as Avatar was that Tron. Was that Tron Legacy?
Tron Legacy, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one that looked like pretty damn good in comparison to Avatar in 3D. So I wonder if the 3D bucks are going to be able to come in with Avatar.
No, and I think one thing that probably hasn't been talked about, and hopefully he's been keeping it largely under wraps, is him developing a whole new technology again, in order to introduce, that to the world and see how that can take off. Because James Cameron, he knows you can't just keep using the same gimmick over and over again. But like you said, we're talking about the guy from, Alien, The Abyss, Terminator 2. Even Titanic was known for its special effects and whatnot, and a lot of the technology it used.
It's the most expensive movie ever produced when it was finished.
Exactly, which luckily, since it before Avatar took the highest grossing film of all time, it showed you bank on James Cameron and he gets you your money back, and then they do it again with Avatar and it just goes up from there. So I believe
Celine Dion had a lot to do with that. I'm just saying.
Well, I'll love you forever. My heart will go on.
My heart will go on.
Wes.
What are you talking about, man?
So yeah, basically, I think what we're saying here is if you get Celine Dion and James Cameron together again, there's nothing but money. Nothing but money. MCU is going to be on a run, and Star Wars too. But another thing that it has in its favor is, with what has happened with Star Wars, with, the reception from the fans, them obviously not having an idea from beginning to end of what they want the story to be for, the sequel trilogy, the toxicity that had been built up with fans and the divisiveness that came along with it. Avatar doesn't have that built in. It's just, hey, you guys remember the last story? Okay, cool. Just come right back in and, none of that divisiveness, none of that negativity is going to be around the promotion when it gets to that point.
It's crazy. If you look at those Star Wars movies that Disney has produced. You know, you have The Force Awakens, well over $2 billion at the internet or the worldwide box office, breaks the record domestically with over $1 billion. Then I think you had Rogue One next. That one went over $1 billion worldwide, even though it didn't have the Star Wars saga attached to it. Like, okay, Star Wars is a big hit for Disney. What a good purchase. Then you get to, what is it, the Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Comes out, you know, breaks records on opening weekend again. That one makes $1.3 billion just by word of mouth alone. People were just like turned off by the movie so badly that when the next movie Solo comes out, I think it does $380 million. So the first movie, Star Wars movie to ever lose money. And then when the Rise of Skywalker comes out, the finale of the trilogy, it makes just over $1 billion. About what The Force Awakens did domestically on its own. It did worldwide. So the diminishing returns on Star Wars movies because of what Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams have done to the franchise and the discombobulation and really the middle finger that they've given to their fans is really turned off a lot of long-term Star Wars viewers. I'm a Star Wars nut. You know, I watch Star Wars with my kids. They're not allowed to watch the new trilogy. And they're not going to be as long as they're under the age of 18. Once they're 18 and they move out of the house, they can watch that crap. As long as they're in my house, they aren't watching it because it's garbage. Avatar does not have that.
No, it doesn't have any of that, and that's going to be, you know, one of its biggest advantages out the gate. You know, when it comes to that, Star Wars is in the process of building back up that fan trust. Avatar, you know, the only thing Avatar did at all, you know, to maybe tarnish that is just, you know, the cycle of James Cameron always taking long breaks, longer than usual in between.
Well, you think about it, the end of the original trilogy and the beginning of the prequel trilogy was a shorter span than what we've gotten between Avatar and the sequel that'll be in 2022. In the end of the prequel trilogy and the beginning of the sequel trilogy, another shorter period of time than we're getting between Avatar and Avatar 2 in 2022. That is a prolonged break. Is it going to be like, you know, Independence Day Resurgent or whatever the hell that thing was? Or is it going to be, you know, Bad Boys for Life where, you know, the fans come back? You never know. I guess it all depends on how it looks.
That's going to be
it's going to look spectacular.
And it is. But let's not forget something, though. Another thing, you know, that it has for it is, again, James Cameron. Avatar got put up for Best Director as well. You know, he's not a Zack Snyder where it's just about making things look really, really pretty, and you hope and pray that you get, you know, a bunch of established and really great actors put around, you know, your main cast just to hold up the believability and the performance end of the deal. He pulls great performances out of the people that he casts, and then they also have really good casting on top of that. If we think about Sigourney Weaver, Zoe Saldana, I know he hasn't been around much recently, but Sam Worthington was on fire. He was really, really hot around that time. And I forget the name of
that Terminator Salvation, and then he did Wrath of the Titans. Get out of here, Sam Worthington. You're not a star.
Yeah, Christian Bale barely made it out of there. and it's true, you know. I mean, I would lean towards that, but at the same time, again, all that does is it points to, you know, James Cameron and his directing skills. You pull better performances out of people, you know, when, you know, it's just like a coach in basketball. You can maybe not have the best players, but if you've got a really good system and you can inspire them and then teach them that good system, you can pull better performances out of your players. And James Cameron is very much that type of director. So he has that going for them. He is easily a far better director. And I'm not talking about, you know, we can go box office and all that, but I'm talking about purely just pulling the performances out of people and knowing the vision for the film and getting there. James Cameron is easily better than J.J. Abrams, better than Rian Johnson, and even better than George Lucas.
Oh, now you're just being ridiculous. I'm not even going to get into that because you're pissing me off. But if you think about it, if you like James Cameron, if you like Abyss, obviously that was mostly a movie filmed underwater, I believe. at least one of the Avatar sequels is going to be underwater as well. So hopefully I believe it's the second one will take.
Yeah,
a lot of it will take place in an underwater environment. That could be pretty dope. Thinking about the 3D effects and all the things that James Cameron has done in the past, taking it to the next level like 15 years later, I think it could be even bigger, mind-blowing visuals and special effects in store for people. But here's the big thing, that the cloud that's essentially hanging over the entire box office. When are movie theaters in the box office going to return? If by the time Avatar comes back, yes, people are back in movie theaters, but we've lost half the theaters in America or half the theaters in Europe, you're not going to be able to get that box office because people just won't have access to the films.
It's true. It's going to be very different, and that's going to be a huge factor. And on the flip side,
they're saying AMC might run out of money within the next 6 months if they don't get the movie industry moving forward, if they don't get bailed out by the government.
Yeah, some estimates are even as soon as at the beginning of the year. So even as early as January, and that's the thing that Avatar doesn't have in its favor, and that Star Wars very much does. I mean, obviously Star Wars is owned by Disney, so they've got that part built in. Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, so they've got that part built in. That they're easily sustainable, but they have merchandising and all this other stuff that even when it takes a dip, or people aren't buying the toys because of the movie, you still got a lot of people buying the sweatshirts, buying the T-shirts, and all that. Avatar does not have that. They are absolutely going to be dependent on the theatrical experience in order to, get that money back. Because the other thing is, when to Wes's point earlier, James Cameron, these are big budget movies. Titanic, large budget of all time. I mean, even Avatar, I think just not even in promotion, I think just in the budget itself was like $250 million. And I know because of all the Marvel movies, we're like, oh, well, that's not, but no, this is not.
It was a while ago.
Right. This is a long time ago, and it doesn't have the mouse to back it up. James Cameron is standing on his own.
They own Fox Studios.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I would be reluctant to see, though, how much they would. Well, I think they would support it fairly well, and yes, it's behind Fox, but it doesn't even have any other movies to support it. Like, we can't say, oh, what we lost, in Ant-Man will make back up, in the next Avengers movie. Like, they've got to stand on their own, because as finances go, everything always gets its own budget.
Well,
and I don't know
with James Cameron's past performances, Disney is going to back the truck up as far as promotion. And he is a bankable box office attract. Well, I don't know if he's the box office attraction, but his films are bankable box office attractions. They're over time, from the 80s all the way up into the 2000s. His movies have always made money.
Oh, yeah.
This is
absolutely.
a different market.
Some of the most.
We don't know what it's going to be.
And that's my point. Like, this is dependent on the film and nothing else. No merchandise, none of that other stuff. Of course, it'll be well promoted and everything, but on the flip side, they're not. I don't see them being so willing to take a chance, be like, oh, okay, so theater's still not going, like it's still not there, let's do home video. It's not going to be that. They're going to be fully dependent on the theatrical experience in order to make this up. Whereas Star Wars as a whole, as a brand, isn't as dependent on that, but yet and still,
you got Disney
that's the best
Plus,
way to see it.
You got some content on there. Obviously, the merchandising and the move, or the T-shirts, video games, all that stuff. What's also interesting is there are no Star Wars movies filming. They're not really in production right now. There's ideas of Star Wars movies, but there's nothing like in the pipeline. There's no release dates that have been secured or anything like that. So they can take a break on Star Wars indefinitely and wait Kathleen Kennedy's contract out and get a new vision in there. But Avatar, it's filming. I believe they said they've got principal photography of like almost 3 of the sequels already almost completely done. They're just going to have to do processing and stuff. So.
And they just wrapped up. Like the final filming because they've been filming it for 3 years. So they just wrapped up the filming for this in September last month. But like you said, they were also filming parts of 3 and 4 all at the same time while doing this one. Which I'm like, that would like I am an editor, and and I've been involved in filmmaking.
They did the same thing
You
with
really
Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson.
Right. Absolutely. So you have top tier filmmakers are able to juggle things like that, which just blows my mind.
It's a very interesting question. Will Avatar end up being a more bankable movie franchise than Star Wars for Disney moving forward? I don't know. It's hard for me to even guess. I'm going to say no. Nah, I'm going to say yes. I think the worldwide box office success, I think that James Cameron will probably be able to sell it with the 3D technology, which has kind of gone passe. I think people are going to remember the experience that they got. And, it's a franchise that's already proven to break barriers as far as it was a worldwide phenomenon before. But the real question is, if there's no box office, there's no theater network really to support it, then it's a moot point because it's not going to have the opportunity.
Right. My answer, out the gate when I thought about it all was yes. We don't know what James Cameron is doing. So, and I don't expect him to try to use the same thing because he never really does. He's always advanced with technology, but he's not dependent on it. He also filmed this documentary where he invented some new camera technology for that alone. And that documentary was all underwater as well. So I to be honest with you, I think the documentary was just an excuse to come up with it and then test it out without, throwing it in to a big budget movie anyway. So I think he's going to have a little bit of that with the new twist to it, his great directing and performances. And even if the theaters haven't fully recovered, it's not about the biggest box office ever. It's just about, will Avatar beat Star Wars at the box office next film to film, or even as a, next trilogy or franchise, if you say. I'm going to say, at least for the next film, I believe it will.
Well, I definitely want to hear from the viewers. What do you think? Will the Avatar sequels be bigger for Disney than the Star Wars sequels? It's an interesting question. Definitely leave your comments or leave your views and opinions in the comments section. What are your thoughts? Do you think Skip's an idiot? Do you think I'm an idiot? Am I right? Like normal? There's a good chance that I am. So we can't wait to hear your feedback in the comments section, and really appreciate it. Glad to get the team back together. The boys are back. And we'll definitely be seeing Skip on the channel next week for at least one video. We're recording every Tuesday. This video should be up on Friday. But thanks so much, brother, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.